Well, thanks so much for being with us here on ANF Plus. We are following several stories this afternoon, but, we did want to let you know about several crashes that happen overnight and through the early morning hours throughout Metro Atlanta that shut down various highways around our area. So we are working to learn more information about these crashes, including one that happened on I-20 near Capitol Avenue. And we also want to let you know very sad news that a driver actually died following a multi-car crash that happened on I-285 into Cobb County just this morning. Officers responded to that crash shortly before 3 a.m. on I-285 northbound just south of Glenwood Road, and police say investigators determined the crash was started when one driver pulled over because of car trouble and another car actually hit her, and the first driver died from her injuries according to police. No other serious injuries were reported there, but certainly some treacherous conditions on the roadways, and obviously, we did see that deadly crash. We're going to keep following the latest on that and all of your top stories. Also, we know, of course, it is Mother's Day, and you're familiar, I think, with Hosea Helps, which is a wonderful nonprofit that held its annual Mommy and Me event for Mother's Day weekend. Volunteers brought food and infant and newborn supplies to the cars of moms who came by over the weekend, and they also gave them a hot meal for the entire family. Of course, it's all about helping to ease the financial burden, especially for single moms, especially if they have lower income.
So everything from the financial gift to the gift of people's time, has gone into letting these mothers know that there are people out here that are willing to help you get where you need to go.
So the women were also screened for homelessness prevention, and case managers will follow up with them in this coming week to see how else Hosea Helps can make sure that they stay safe and healthy and well cared for, and that they're also able to care for their little ones as well on this Mother's Day. Speaking of Mother's Day, it's obviously been a very dreary forecast, but financially as well. And tariffs are projected to really hamper Mother's Day spending this year. Atlanta News First reporter Josh Skinner explains the impact.
The market is less bloom, more wilt this Mother's Day. In some cases, flowers are almost double the price they were in 2024, partially because of tariffs. 80% of all flowers sold in the United States are not grown here. They come from countries like Colombia and Ecuador.
They have the same temperature all year round. So the commerciability of growing what we need for the consumers 52 weeks a year is able to be done.
Over $2.2 billion worth of flowers were imported into the U.S. last year. That number is expected to take a hit this year due to tariffs and the fact that consumers are expected to buy 14% less product than last year's Mother's Day. But despite that, florists are expected to be okay, partially due to lessons learned during the pandemic.
They got much better at planning in advance. They really leaned into their supplier relationships because that's so important in times like this.
Colombia and Ecuador face 10% blanket tariffs, but prices have gone up more than that. Experts say it's due to the uncertainty and constantly shifting tariff and regulatory landscape. I'm Joshua Skinner, Atlanta News First.
And, of course, making headlines around the world today, Pope Leo XIV walked out to cheering crowds this morning for his very first Sunday prayer as pontiff. Atlanta News First anchor Gurveer Dinza looks back at a historic week.
Wednesday, 133 cardinals from across the world sequester inside the Sistine Chapel at the Vatican to elect the next leader of the Roman Catholic Church. Thursday,
people were crying, people were praying. It was jumping for joy. I mean, it was a very emotional experience for a lot of people, and I think that it was, even if you're not a very religious person, it kind of takes you back a little bit.
White smoke pours from the chimney installed on top of the chapel as a new pontiff is chosen.
I should also like this greeting of peace to enter our hearts and your families, and to all those people, wherever they are.
Cardinal Robert Prevost, now Pope Leo XIV, the pontiff-to-be born in the United States.
My jaw is on the floor. I'm absolutely, never in a million years did I imagine that we would see an American walk out onto that balcony. I was as shocked as everyone else.
Born in Chicago, Pope Leo is seen as the least American cardinal because of years of missionary work in Peru, where he is a dual citizen. He was appointed cardinal by Pope Francis in 2023. On Saturday, Pope Leo made his first public outing, visiting a shrine in Rome. He laid out priorities intending to follow his predecessor's legacy of church reforms and calling artificial intelligence a challenge for working people and human dignity. Today, Pope Leo XIV presides over his first Sunday Mass at St. Peter's Square as the new pontiff.
Indeed, as Pope St. Gregory the Great teaches, people respond to the love of those who love them.
And of course, Gavir Denza with that story. You know, the end of a very, very difficult school year has now arrived at Appalache High School. Students and staff still healing from tragedy after 2 students and 2 teachers were killed and 9 others were hurt in a mass shooting September last year. Well, this weekend, the school said thank you to the Winder and Barrow County communities who've supported them since that tragedy. Atlanta News First senior reporter Patrick Quinn went to the school that is so thankful for all the support.
At Appalache High School, under the clouds, there was food, flowers, and reminders to feel. Since the deadly shooting here last year, Barrow County has had Appalachi's back. On this day, it was the school's turn to cradle its community.
I really enjoyed getting to come out and seeing everybody out here and just all the smiles and laughs and walking around the track.
I met Annalie Garland, a senior and drum major at Appalache High School. She was in band class last September during the shooting that killed 4 people.
I have to learn to coexist with what happened with being in band, but also still find a way to be there for people that are in band.
Recovery requires resiliency. Annalie said leaning into her feelings has made her a better leader. And at Appalache High School, they've got some new help. In light of the shooting, the Barrow County School District, they hired a recovery coordinator, Kelsey Zimmer. She started in February with the sole mission of helping students and staff inside the classroom cope with the shooting and everyday struggles.
There's never been a moment that you have to question if people are going to show up, if people are going to be there to support each other, rain or shine, as you can see today.
Kelsey told me she's connecting staff and students to mental health resources, working to implement more social emotional components in the classroom, and working on grants to get more trauma-informed recovery funding. On this day, curriculum set aside for community.
I think being able just to lean on each other and have that community and have it in band and have it in whatever you're passionate about in the school, it really helps bring out the best in people.
In Barrow County, Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
And 5 decades ago, America's longest war was coming to an end in Vietnam. And one young boy's story was just beginning. Our Gavir Denza spoke to him about being brought to the United States after all the fighting and about his parents, his newfound family on this Mother's Day.
That's a Law Day award right there.
Old photos take Tony Baker back 50 years.
This is my 4th grade picture. Look at that haircut.
Look at that, yeah, look at the bangs.
Ooh, look at the bangs.
Tony's road to Cherokee County actually begins thousands of miles away. It was April 1975. South Vietnam's capital of Saigon fell to the North Vietnamese, and America's longest war came to an end. As people desperately tried to get out, Tony was 7, the son of a Vietnamese woman and an American.
She was telling me that she was going to send me away, and I didn't understand why.
In the midst of the chaos was a Vietnamese woman from Cherokee County in the country to get her own mother and sister out. As chance would have it, Tony's mother made arrangements for her to take her little boy.
I recall the time came, we were at the airport, and this lady took me and walked me to the airplane, and I could see my biological mom, with her hands up against the chain link fence, and she was crying, and that was the last I saw.
Once away from the war and back home, the woman wasn't able to care for the boy and found herself in another chance meeting, this time with a lawyer from Cherokee County.
She said, well, I got this boy, I don't know what I'm gonna do with him. I'm gonna have to put him in an orphanage.
And my husband said, well, I'll take him. I want him. And so that's where that started. I didn't mean to get upset now.
Ginny Baker recalls that phone call from her husband.
He called, and my daughter answered the phone. And he said, Beth, how would you like to have a little brother? And she said, I thought Mama's pregnant again, another brother. And then she put Mama on the phone. Beth was telling me this just last week, as a matter of fact. Put Mama on the phone. Then he told me about him, and I said, let's do it.
In months, Tony joined a brother and 2 sisters and officially became a Baker.
It seemed like he was always ours, though. It didn't seem like it was an addition or anything like that. It just seemed like he was always there.
My parents had very big hearts. I agree. I don't think that many people would have done it, but we're certainly glad that they did. My dad was a great man, and very generous and very selfless, and not surprised at all that he did it.
Baker is now a Superior Court judge in Cherokee County, a little boy who left Vietnam 50 years ago, grateful for a few photos, lingering memories, and the indelible sacrifice of one mother and the love of another.
I'm a believer, and I believe that all things happen to glorify God, and it's what you make of it.
You know that.
Thank you for watching ANF Plus. For more breaking news, live coverage, and your community stories, download the Atlanta News First app. You can also watch us on YouTube, Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. To join the conversation on YouTube Live, visit our channel and hit subscribe.